We have two guests joining us on the podcast today. Ethan Ashley and Carrie Douglas are school board members and the founders of School Board Partners, an organization that helps connect, inspire, and support anti-racist school board members across the country. Ethan and Carrie, thank you so much for joining me today on the Suburban Women Problem. What exactly is a school board and what do school boards do?
Thanks, Jasmine. It is such a great question. It is a question that the vast majority of people can't answer, including most new school board members.
Oh my goodness.
So we love to talk about this question. There are approximately 13,000 school boards across our country and about 100,000 school board members. About 93% of them are elected. And typically they have between 5 and 9 members, and decisions are almost always made by majority vote. So that's kind of the basics on the structure. I think what we spend a lot of time talking about are the misconceptions about what they actually do and have power over. School board members are not the superintendent, and as much as they wish they sometimes did, they do not manage the day-to-day operations of a district. A school board's primary role is to hire, manage, and evaluate the superintendent, which is a really important lever of power because it signals what you care about and what you are holding the leader of the system accountable for. And then the board sets the goals and visions for the district. They should be writing, passing, and monitoring execution of policies, but sometimes not a lot of that is happening. They approve the budget, which is typically hundreds of millions or billions of dollars. They sometimes authorize charter schools and should be holding all schools accountable to a school performance framework. And finally, they should be communicating both directions with the community, both communicating out and having effective ways of the community communicating to the school board.
Yeah, I think, if you're gonna basically sum that up, school board members are responsible for educating the nearly 50 million public school students. And they make decisions about all these critical things, and they do so normally through policy. And they impact student outcomes, experiences, and environments. And so, if you think about, discipline policies at the district, or curriculum used, or how teachers are placed, how they're paid, how students are assigned to schools, and so much more. I mean, board members are responsible for these things, and they make policies on these issues, and they're responsible for, again, educating our young people and improving their outcomes, experiences, and environments.
Thank you for that answer. I think a lot of people they probably just know a little bit about school board, and a lot of people may not have ever even been to a school board meeting. So that was probably really helpful information for a lot of our for a lot of our listeners. So let's talk about school board partners in particular. So you all were founded to support and connect anti-racist school board members. So how has race played a role in school boards historically and to this day?
Yeah, this is such an important question. And we address it briefly in our new report called Empty Seats at Powerful Tables, the State of School Boards in America. But it's definitely worth and worthy of an entire book on this particular issue. Everyone knows about Brown versus Board of Education, but we rarely acknowledge that it was individual school boards, thousands of elected leaders, that decided how to codify policies and practices across the country that really, I think, enshrined some of the inequality that exists today. And I think that's important to note. Most people hear the Brown and they remember, they know that's somebody, but the Board of Education, it's a school board. And those are elected school board members. So following Brown v. Board, school boards enacted policies to continue de facto segregation rather than embracing integration and racial equity as intended by the law. They built on redlined communities to create segregated school district boundaries. They developed school finance systems that provided greater resources to the wealthiest and typically the whitest part of our communities. and they approved teacher contracts that sent most experienced teachers disproportionately to wealthier and whiter schools. I think these are examples. There's many more examples of how this shows up today, but these are historically some of the examples that existed as to why we have seen the inequalities within our structures, and why it's important to think deeply about how to deal with the system of education as opposed to the individuals in the system.
Yeah, and just to add a little bit more, what most people don't understand is that these policies, many of which were written 50, 60 years ago, are basically still on the books today with very few changes. And so that is really our work at School Board Partners, is to help school boarders begin to dismantle those calcified, long-standing policies that most people no longer even know the history of. It's just the way we do school, but it doesn't have to be the way we do school.
Thank you for that. So I guess, can we talk, I mean, I think it was a very good general overview, but can we talk specifics? What are some inequities that we should all know about that maybe people are just not aware of, or, they might not think about it in that way, but after, kind of open their eyes, you're like, oh man, I didn't actually think about it, but that actually could create an inequity in the school systems.
Yeah, I mean, the fact of the matter is that American public schools are grossly inequitable on literally every dimension. And it's really kind of hard to believe that all these years later, there was a big report called the Coleman Report that first identified the achievement gap, and our school systems have been talking about closing the achievement gap for over 50 years now. And yet it's barely budged. And so when we talk about, students of color today still disproportionately attend under-resourced schools, they're more likely to be staffed by less experienced teachers. They're provided with less access to advanced courses. As a result of all of that, students of color are on average several grade levels behind their peers. That leads them to graduate from high school and complete post-secondary degrees at lower rates than those peers. And really, in short, we are not providing students of color the same caliber of education that we offer to white students. And the consequences of that echo truly throughout their lives.